I turned it down already. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Raw. This afternoon, I have got a guest coming in. His name is Jasper Fox, coming in from Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome to the show, Jasper.
Thanks, Jay. Really glad to be here, for sure.
So right now, what type of vehicle is that you're actually doing, that you're coming in live from?
This is a, I'm not sure the year model. It doesn't belong to me. It's being loaned to me at the moment, but it's a Ford. It's a Ford Econoline, the big long ones, the 350.
Nice.
Big high top on it and everything.
So while we wait for some people to jump on, I wanted to just take a few moments here to just kind of share with the community. For those that are joining us live, if you hear something that resonates with you, that you like or love, gently push your like or love button there to let us know. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to share them at any time with both Jasper and myself. Jasper and I met just about a week ago or so. It's a week already that we met for the first time in Las Vegas at the Quantum Revolution Tour. And what impressed me about you, Jasper, was that you showed up ready to work, and you were laser focused on what your primary role was there. And I believe it was you were the videographer, the photographer, and you were just moving continuously in flow, capturing some really, really intimate moments, powerful moments, inspirational moments. And I'm just curious what that was like for you, having to work this event, this 3-day healing. I like to refer to it as a healing opportunity, healing retreat of sorts, for those that were there, over 100 people that were there because they wanted to improve some aspect of their own life.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like for you to be behind the video camera, capturing all of these moments of surprise and whatever else unfolded?
Well, it was kind of dreams come true. It was everything that I've been manifesting in my reality for the last 10 years coming into fruition, because for the last few years, I've been traveling with a group. We called ourselves the Dumpster Jedi, and we would go around and we set up free food kitchens at different gatherings and in different cities throughout our travels. And our whole idea was we wanted to set up a space where people felt welcome and felt safe and free to be who they are. And in a lot of ways, that's exactly what Quantum Revolution Tour is. And while I was doing all that stuff with Dumpster Jedi, my film skills and all of that was always on the back burner, because I was more in charge of, making sure that the situations would flow well and making sure everybody was taken care of. And yet, while we were doing all that, the whole time I was wanting to be documenting it, because there are these moments of elation and transformation and alignment with our true selves, and being able to capture those moments and share them with other people who are excited about participating in something like that themselves, or needing something like that themselves. Like being able to take those moments and make them last longer than just that moment. Like that's my heart right there. So that was amazing getting to be there. And like my I am focused. So that's pretty cool that you recognized my focus there, because that was definitely what I was aiming to embody.
For you personally, how were you able to manage let's say the juggling of your first responsibility is to capture every moment, and who's to judge what's significant and what's insignificant, because every moment was significant for somebody there. Mm-hmm. How is it that you were able to juggle that, and at the same time have your own experience of going through each moment as a participant. Were you able to capture any of that for yourself, or where were you in that scale of work 95%, personal takeaway 5%, or where was the balance? And how were you able to manage that? Because that had to be challenging.
Well, the nice thing is, I am empathic. I am intuitive. I'm working on my intuition. So I could feel for sure when the speakers were getting into some deep stuff, getting into some important stuff that I wanted to make sure that, because we didn't have during this event, we didn't record all of the audio that came through the microphones. That's going to be something we'll do in the future. But because we didn't do that in this one, I had to be ready to push up really close with the camera as soon as it felt like somebody was talking about something I didn't want to miss. Otherwise, we wouldn't have audio of it. So it was this big dance of just like feeling out when important things are going to be said and hoping I don't miss it when I don't feel it. And then, I mean, the rest of it was basically just being present and sensing people and their emotions, and trying to be there when it was an exciting moment, or a deep introspective moment, or even a heavy-hearted moment. And being empathic definitely helps with a lot of that, because you can feel it coming from the area around you, and so you're kind of drawn to it. But as far as being able to like have the experience myself, I was able to listen to most of the speakers while I was working. Most of the exercises that we went through and the practices that we went through, a lot of the times the lights would go down for some of that, so I couldn't video anyway, so I would just have to put the camera down anyway. So that made that decision a lot easier. Stuff like getting in the ice bath, like, I mean, that was as easy as getting some footage and then putting my camera down and going and participating myself. So there were a few things that I didn't get the chance to do, like I didn't get to participate in the inertia wave, and I did miss a couple of meals because I would have to run out to my van and take care of my dog, and that was higher priority than missing out on work and stuff. So and so yeah, the dance was interesting for sure. But I mean, I think I told you this the other night, like that's always been my gig though. Like almost every job I've ever had, it's always been working at the party or at the event or at the get together, and I like that because I like taking care of people, and I like making sure that things flow right, and I'm all about efficiency. So getting to participate in anything that helps everything flow efficiently is that's my jam. So
One thing that I noticed, I'm going to say this and feel safe to believe it's the truth, at least it's my story, is that you mentioned the ice bath, and I jumped in, and I don't like cold water. I don't like cold, period. That's why I moved to the state of Arizona.
Makes sense.
I pushed through my own discomfort. However, I'm gonna put myself out there right now and say that by far, there was no one that stayed in the pool in that ice bath as long as you did.
Huh. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. There are some of the ones that came and like supported me. I think they might have been in a little longer, but like they're definitely a little more experienced at this too. That was my first time, and that was tough. That was mentally, physically, emotionally, like it was beautiful how the people that were a bit more experienced and were handling it a little better were willing to come and be supportive, because I definitely would have climbed out of there a lot quicker without their support.
What was that about? Because I have my own interpretation of why you had 4 or 5 people that surrounded you, hands locked, I believe, and you were in the center of them in this ice bath. What was the symbolism behind that? What was the intention? What was it for you?
Well, I mean, what I felt was that like during the deep breathing exercises, and they were talking about how a lot of times your body will have specific reactions because you're releasing blockages due to the exercise that you're putting yourself through. And I think that for a lot of us, there's certain blockages that that are mirrored in that exercise. And so I think that I was going through releasing a lot of blockages. And I mean, obviously, that kind of event attracts a lot of intuitive people. And like Lacey, for example, before everybody started circling around me, well, like right as they were beginning, right before they started to, I heard her off in the distance. Like I was trying to meditate on just like my own breathing, but I still heard her off in the distance and say, "Oh, I just want to hug him." And it was in the immediate moment, I was just sitting there wishing that I was being held, and I was trying to hold myself. And so like she totally sensed that from me. And Darius moved in about the same time, and so did a few others. And I don't know, it was like they sensed, it was like they all felt exactly what I was needing in that moment. And it wasn't to physically be held, but to know that I was supported. Because in that, like with that, I don't know if that's the kind of blockage that I was working through. Because it was, as we step into our I am, and as we step into alignment with our highest selves, we realize that we've always been fully supported. And the whole point of this weekend, or that weekend, was to realign with that knowing, and that confidence, and that understanding that everything is always taken care of, and it's just up to us to play our part in that, to allow that to be the way we want it to be. And I think that that's the blockage I was releasing, was that sense of like, of not realizing that it's always okay. Everything is everything is always working out for me. That's a mantra that Abraham Hicks likes to teach, is everything is always working out for me. And it's because, we're the only thing stopping the universe from allowing everything to flow to us that we desire in our life. And so I think, I don't know. Yeah, that was a beautiful exercise, and I'm so glad for the community and the way that everything panned out there.
I tell you how I was affected by that moment. It was minutes. It wasn't a moment. But what I felt was those that had surrounded you and you were in the center of them, you were out of control, shivering.
Mm-hmm.
And but yet by them holding you, metaphorically speaking, just by them having joined hands, the energy, they were basically supporting you by giving you their warmth, the warmth of their soul. There was such love surrounding you. It gave me the courage to come in to the water. And you didn't know that till this moment.
I didn't. That's beautiful. Yeah, man.
That's how it works today. We give each other what we need, and we don't even know it sometimes. I didn't even know it consciously till this moment. So thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's we're all in this together.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do is invite you, while I get myself back on track here, to just maybe just jump in. And we had talked a couple of nights ago about you joining me in the studio today. Mm-hmm. And, when we had dinner the last evening together, and I said to you, you and I hadn't had the time to connect through the weekend at all, in an intimate way, other than from a distance, me really watching and observing you from time to time. But on the last evening, I reached out to you at the dinner table, and I said, I'd love to have an opportunity to talk with you offline. And I gave you my card, I believe. And then you reached out to me days later. And we had the conversation 2 nights ago. And I said, why, we talked for a bit and I said, what's on your mind? Why did you reach out to me? He said, because you asked me to. And in that moment, I was like, that's right. Because I knew that we all have a backstory, and I knew that you had a backstory without knowing what it was, but something that I felt I wanted to hear more about. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to come into the studio and show up for yourself and show up for others. And so I am holding back on a side story that unfolded for me since Sunday night. And I haven't shared it with you. And I'm holding off until I feel it's the appropriate time. But at some point during the show, I'm going to share a story that happened for me, a moment of synchronicity since we met. And I hope you have your banjo with you, because I'm going to invite you to actually sing a song. And you have no idea what that song is at this moment.
I don't.
And that's okay. What's that?
I said, I don't know what the song is, but I do have my banjo. Yes.
Okay. And you've sung it before. So at this moment, I'd like to invite you to jump in where you feel comfortable to begin to share your backstory. And at any time, if you're uncomfortable, if I should ask a question that you're not comfortable with, you could set a loving boundary with me and just let me know, in this moment, I'm just not comfortable to share that. And I will respect you for having the courage just to create a loving boundary with me. And so without further ado, let's get this show going.
Okay. Well, to put my entire backstory into a nutshell is challenging. I mean, my life hasn't been crazy exciting or eventful or anything, but we all have, we could probably each write a book about, what we've been through in our lives. But when you mentioned the other day, you asked me if I had a general idea of what I'd like to speak of, and most of the time I go in the moment as far as like what I want to touch on. But I like what came in the moment of when you asked me that, because I feel like it's something that's so common for so many of us. And like I grew up with a mom who was absolutely amazing. She worked so hard to make sure that me and my sister always felt loved and supported, and we had everything we ever needed and most of the things we wanted, even though we didn't have, a whole lot of money while we were growing up. And I don't consciously remember. I don't have any recollection of ever being upset about not having a dad around. They didn't work out very well from a very young age. I think before I was even 2, they were parted. So he was never around in my conscious experience, except when I would go to visit him once or twice a year for like a week. That started after 5 or 6. But the issues that I developed later on in life, stuff like anger, rage, depression, loneliness, never feeling good enough, things like that. It just all, when I started being more conscious of these issues and realizing how detrimental they were to my life and realizing I needed to change them, I realized that I need to figure out where it all started, where these things came from. And I started having conversations with the people who had known me the longest, my mother, my grandmother, and both of them told me the exact same thing on separate occasions, because I went to them. They had always told me I was the most bubbliest, happy-go-lucky little kid that they had ever met, and just the shiniest little star. And that shifted at one point, and I asked them both like when that shifted. And they both told me the exact same thing. They said that when I started Boy Scouts, and what we collectively realized there was that was the first time my little 5 or 6-year-old brain was coming to the realization that everybody else had a dad and I didn't. And like I said, I don't consciously remember growing up being upset about not having a dad. I remember thinking things like, my mom is more than enough mom and dad for anybody. Like, she was amazing. But at the same time, I still resulted in the same issues that come down to like that feeling that would naturally happen for a 6-year-old looking around, seeing all these dads going like, wait a minute, I don't have a dad. What's wrong with me for me to not have a dad? Like, why do they all have one and I don't? And why am I not good enough for that kind of experience? And just like all of those kind of thought patterns, you know, start developing. But because we're children, we have, you know, psychological mechanisms to help us not have to deal with that pain at such a young age. So it gets buried and it gets covered and it gets masked and it becomes other things and it comes back out in your life. You know, I didn't start consciously realizing that it was like seeping into the rest of my life till I was like 18, and then didn't really become super conscious of it and start actually working on it till I was 22 or 23. And it's been, you know, a steady path since then, working out of it, but I still have struggles with it. And I don't say any of this to focus on the problem itself. Sometimes we have to talk about the problems, but I'd rather shift attention to like the solutions. And for me, everything we're doing in the Quantum Revolution tribe, everything that this past weekend was all about, like that to me is kind of an epitome of what all the self-work, all the self-realization, all the self-actualization, all the self-help anybody could ever do for themselves. It comes down to loving ourselves. And it comes down to being able to be there for ourselves in the way that we expect or wish others would be. Or, you know, when you step into your I am, when you become aligned with the truth of who you really are, you can't be abandoned, because you are everything, and everything and you are always with you. So like the feelings of not being good enough, feelings of being abandoned are like, we raise our vibration beyond those. It's not even like we have to get rid of them. We transcend them. They become something that we no longer resonate with. And all of that, like, I mean, so a lot of those words sound like, you know, hippy dippy woo woo words, but like what it comes down to is being there for yourself, and like being able to know yourself well enough, and being able to stand in your truth and walk your truth no matter what anyone else is saying. Of course, being considerate of others in the process, not stomping all over other people in the process, but not needing everyone's approval in order to make the decisions that you need to make for yourself, in order to live the way that you need to live in order to be happy. Like all of that is part of that loving yourself. And I mean, it all, to me, the foundation of every bit of it is awareness, cultivating our self-awareness, because through awareness, we're going to better understand our emotions and the way that we think. We're going to be more conscious in the moments when we're slipping from our truth, and be able to readjust where we're focusing our attention and the way that we're responding to things. And in that, thinking the way that is true to us, feeling the way that's true to us, acting the way that's true to us, in those three right there, we're loving ourselves, living the way that's true to us. And all of that is how we go about loving ourselves. And I'm not saying any of this being any kind of expert. I'm saying this as being someone who, you know, didn't have that terrible of a life and still grew up with all kinds of issues that turned out pretty terrible. Like, you know, there's a lot of people can end up with the same issues from being overloved as they can end up with from being underloved. Like, that's the beautiful thing about being humans, is as different as we are, we're still so very much the same. And like the solution for every single one of our internal issues is turning inward and taking care of us first. That way we can share from a cup that's overflowing instead of one that's only got a few drops left. And like that's what I'm all about, is like trying to rephrase or redefine the term selfish, because we have to be selfish in order to be selfless. Otherwise, we're kind of being selfish in just trying to be selfless and never taking care of ourselves, because what that results in is us breaking ourselves down to where everybody else ends up having to take care of us. so it's like, by trying to be the selfless that we've been taught, we're actually being more selfish than taking care of ourselves first, which is, I don't know, I think that's pretty amazing.
I'm gonna invite you to take a moment here to take a deep breath.
Yeah, thank you.
Because you shared a lot. And I'm going to also invite you to take back the statement, I don't know. Please take it back.
What did I say it in reference to?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
because what does matter is you do know. What you know is this is your truth. And what you also know is it doesn't truly matter what other people think of what you have to say. Because when we come home to ourself and we are connected at the soul level, at who we are, truly are, it doesn't matter what other people think. The only thing that matters is that we're at peace with the choices that we make. And those that aren't at peace with it, it's just because they're in judgment. And if someone is in judgment on how you choose to live your life, it's a choice to have them in your life. Because behind judgment is conditional love. And I could tell you that conditional love didn't work for me. And so what I have done in my own healing journey is do the work, is show up for myself, no matter what, no matter how I felt, no matter how much pain I was in physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. And that was my non-negotiable. I showed up every single day until I started to feel differently, until I started to realize that it didn't matter what other people thought. It didn't matter what other people said. What mattered was how I started to feel. And having that experience of beginning to feel and acknowledge what those feelings were, the truths, I was able to begin to heal. And you said a lot of beautiful things. And there is not one thing that you said that I am not aligned with, Jasper Fox. And we've never had a conversation like this. But I tell you what, when it comes to the big, ugly, dirty word called abandonment, this is what I've learned. Children are abandoned because children don't have a choice. They're not old enough to be able to take care of themselves. They are reliant on adults to tend to their needs, to nurture them, to love them, to take care of them, to protect them. Children are abandoned, okay? It happens, unfortunately. Adults that believe that they are abandoned I believe, have a misunderstanding of the true word of abandonment. Adults aren't abandoned. It may feel like abandonment because all it's doing is it's bringing you back to that a time in your life where as a child you experienced abandonment. And it's just a cellular memory popping back up and impacting you in a moment as the adult who again has been triggered or has the feeling of abandonment. But abandonment as a child is real. And it does happen, as you described it happened in your own life. But here's what can take place. And I believe has taken place for you, or you are in the middle of continuing your healing journey on this topic, which is that when we're that child and we're dependent on a parent to take care of us and to be there for us, and they're not capable or they're not able because of their own suffering and pain and wound that they're dealing with, that they haven't dealt with. We learn how to self-adapt. We learn how to survive. We pick up our own tools. And they're not always healthy ones, but they're survival tools, like the tools in the battlefild. We have to learn how to get through, how to get by, how to navigate through the childhood, let's say. And then we take that into our adulthoods, at least that's what I did. And I continued to behave, reaching for, let's say, the survival tools that really weren't serving me or my relationships, and they became very hurtful to everyone in my life, most importantly myself. But here's where the game changer can come in, is that when we understand that when we go to that space of feeling triggered again or feeling abandoned, like as the adult one more time, what we can do is we don't have to rely on somebody else to pick us up and someone else to save us or make us feel better. When we have that icky feeling again of perhaps an abandonment feeling, we now, as the adult, can nurture and love ourselves through self-care, through self-love, and recognize through that word so importantly, eloquently said, awareness, as you stated earlier, that we now can hold ourselves, we now can love ourselves. And ourself is our inner child, and we could have that conversation with ourselves and talk to our inner child and protect our inner child and let our inner child know how much we love ourselves and how much we're here to take care of ourselves. And that is such a powerful tool that's not taught in the classrooms. It's not taught in school. It's not taught in homes.
No.
But it is taught by people like you that show up and have had to experience it and have chosen a path to heal your own mind, body, and soul. And we get to be teachers and mentors and students all in the same day. We just have to be willing to show up.
Yeah, man.
How do you feel right now in this moment? How does it feel to be having this conversation with me?
It feels great. These are the kind of conversations that I'm always trying to encourage. I mean, the more we're able to really, I mean, this is how we peel away the layers that allow us to be who we're here to be. And I think the more that people are sitting down, being willing to have these kinds of conversations, the quicker our species is going to evolve.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I agree with you. I'd like to take a little bit of time and invite you to share what self-care and self-love looks like for you today. How do you navigate there? Because it's, it sounds so easy. It sounds like we just flipped that light switch that's behind me. Most people don't know how to get there. What has been your roadmap, your GPS, your navigation system?
Well, like I said, the foundation of all of it is self-awareness. Cultivating self-awareness every single day, doing a little bit to cultivate self-awareness every single day lays a firm foundation for everything else. That's from my experience. And that, obviously practices like meditation are going to be the most effective thing for cultivating self-awareness, but a lot of us have a really hard time slowing down our mind, clearing our mind enough to get into a meditative state where that type of awareness would naturally build. So one thing that's been really helpful for me is a practice that Bentinho Massaro taught that's called, I think he calls it recognizing recognizing presence or something like that. But it's basically just a present moment practice. And so 12 times a day, you take 2 to 5 seconds to completely clear your mind and connect with the power of the present moment. So basically just 2 to 5 seconds of a single pointed attention, not allowing our mind to be thinking about stuff or wandering. 2 to 5 seconds, which I find is the easiest way to do that is a deep breath, because it's super easy to drop all thoughts, put your attention on your breath, and feel the pressure of your chest rising and the relief of your chest falling as you breathe in and out. And by the time you've done that, you've done 2 to 5 seconds. And so doing that 12 times a day and making it a habit to do 2 to 5 seconds 12 times a day has been one of the most powerful tools I've used for cultivating self-awareness. But that combined with meditation, combined with journaling, so we can be more aware of the way that we're thinking of things, just there's all kinds of techniques that people can use to cultivate self-awareness. But I think for me, when it comes down to comes down to that guide, feeling guided within each step in order to love myself, it's comes down to the emotions and the emotional guidance system, because like Jess talks about this a lot. She's got, she's got her versions of like the emotional scale, and Abraham Hicks talks about it a lot. But like the concept is basically that our emotions are nothing but a indicator of the vibrational relationship between ourself and our highest self. And the worse the emotion feels, the farther we are in vibrational resonance from our highest self. The better we feel, the closer we are. And so it's making actions, or taking action, making decisions, choosing to think about things based upon the way that it's causing us to feel, because that tells us, like, if I'm viewing something and I'm feeling in a negative way because of the way that I'm viewing it, that means my highest self is seeing it way differently. And so it's like being disciplined in choosing slightly better feeling thoughts and slightly better feeling thoughts and slightly better feeling thoughts. And if it eventually it reprograms our knee-jerk reaction to how we respond to life and the world and ourselves. And that's, again, that self-love to me is all about closing that vibrational gap. The more we can stay in vibrational resonance with our highest self, the more we're going to be in a state where we feel loved, where we feel supported, where we feel confident and able. Yeah.
Beautiful. It's ironic that this morning, when I was wrapping up my spiritual practice along the mountains here in Arizona, I came on live and did one of my spontaneous lives, and my topic was about self-love, because I chose to wear self-love t-shirt this morning, and I had some very different reactions than I typically do when I choose to wear a different affirmation on my chest. And in the past, when I'd wear choose love, I got a lot of smiles and a lot of warm energy coming off of people that I pass along my hike. But this morning, when I chose to wear choose self-love, I didn't get that. The energy was really low. The energy was one of, they'd glance at my shirt and they'd look back down. I made very, very little eye contact and very few smiles. And that, it really hit me hard, because it was unusual. Usually my shirts are positive affirmations that resonates with people, and usually brings, my feeling is a sense of hope, that it's a reminder for them of that there's hope, that whether it be choose forgiveness or choose happiness or choose kindness or choose love, choose courage. These are just some of the ones. Choose self-care. But choose love really was a Debbie Downer for me this morning. And I really had to process what that was for me. And for me, it was really a sense of sadness that I felt, was the energy was coming off of people, that me wearing that choose love t-shirt was bringing them back to the reality of perhaps they're lacking self-love in their own life. And it felt bad on one hand for me to receive that. But on the other hand, I had to work through that and come to the conclusion that perhaps maybe by wearing it every once in a while, it can be inspiring for others to recognize that, in fact, they are lacking that, and give them courage to get busy, to start to do the work, to deep dive in and do the work, to start to experience what it can feel like to experience self-love, because we spend a whole lifetime chasing love on the outside from people, places, and things. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, we're never going to get our needs met by other people, places, and things. Where we get our needs met is when we stay close, we stay within ourselves. Mm-hmm. And what we get from everybody else is just bonus. It's gravy. It's just the add-on. It's just a connection. Mm-hmm. But as we learn through warrior training, there's a difference between attachment and connection. And what we're talking about here is connection. And we get that when we first learn how to take care of ourselves through self-care that leads to self-love. And so it's not coincidental. Synchronicity met up today. That was a t-shirt I wore this morning. And here we are deep into this conversation. I'd like to switch gears here a little bit and share a story with you.
Please.
Um, I was doing a hike and heel experience just a couple of days ago. And my guest that joined me, we did a double diamond, extremely difficult hike together. And at some point, it was a 3-hour hike. And the topic was forgiveness and healing relationships, leading to healing relationships. At some point, she was felt this desire to share with me. She asked me if I had ever heard of a song. And I said, I'm not familiar with the artist, nor am I familiar with this title, but perhaps I've heard it before. And we let the conversation go, and we just kept talking about, getting back into the hike and the conversation. And we made it to the summit, to the peak, which was a beautiful experience because this guest had never done an extreme hike before, and she had some anxiety walking into it. And she made it to the top, and it was a beautiful experience for her, a really incredible feeling of accomplishment. And so when we got to the top, to the summit, to the peak, I pulled out my phone and I Googled the song, and I was able to play it. And as it came on YouTube, my guest sang the song. And it was less than 12 hours later that I friended you on Facebook. And I decided to go into your Facebook page to pull some pictures for some marketing pieces for today's show. And I stumbled, not stumbled, but I kind of got down only to about the middle of the month, just a couple of weeks ago. And there you were holding a banjo. And I clicked on it to hear what song you went on to sing. And it was the same song. Less than 12 hours later, I heard my guest sing it at the summit, the highest mountain peak in the valley of Phoenix. And here you are singing the song one more time.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And this guest booked me for a second day to do a second hike. On the topic was hike and happiness. And I was so excited that little boy in me, little JJ, couldn't wait to share that story with her and tell her what had happened. And so as we were on a hike, I pulled out my phone and I told her, I have a song I'd like you to listen to. And I went to your Facebook page and I had you sing the song to Jill. And so I think you know what song I'm talking about. It was, I think, on the 16th or 18th of March. The song is called Rise Up. And I'd like to ask you to sing the song right now, if you're willing, by Andra Day.
Okay. I do have my banjo. You may need to hold some space here and entertain some folks while I get it tuned.
It's okay.
All right, give me a minute.
Well, I'm just going to take a moment here just to breathe for myself. And what does synchronicity mean for you? I could tell you what it means for me today is I don't believe in a word happenstance or coincidence. And as I took that hike yesterday, I asked my guest, what did she think was behind? Like, there was a reason why I heard that song. I had never heard it before, but why I was introduced to that song twice within 12 hours. Knowing in that moment that Jasper was going to come into the studio and do the show, but he and Jill had never met. But yet I was the portal, I was the conduit for the two of them having a connection together, a song that meant something to Jill. And she shared with me what that song meant to her. But I am interested for Jasper to share with myself and with you that are watching the show on live or on replay, why, in fact, you did play that song and what that song means to you, Jasper. I don't know if you can hear me right now or not. But before you do sing it, I would love for you to share what does that song, Rise Up, mean to you in your life today?
I believe I'm in tune. Rise Up by Andra Day. That song is just, gosh, it's powerful. It's something that I feel like it embodies. Like, I like songs. I write songs also that like I like songs that dip into the genuine emotions that we all have to feel and go through, and then also remind us that it doesn't always have to be that way. Like, all within the same song, because to deny those emotions is to deny part of ourselves, and to deny to completely invalidate them out of the sake of being positive is not honest or truthful with ourselves at all. So that's not self-love. That's actually like self-deprivation of certain sorts. But yeah, I mean, that whole song, like, you know, you're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round. You can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we're gonna walk it out. Like, that to me, like, I've had so many of those people in my life. I've been that person for so many people in my life, and I see how important that connection is and that support. Like, I mean, and if you want to get really into the I don't know, maybe more airy fairy side of it, like Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, all of the ascended masters, I believe I believe they lived in a time of individual ascension, and I believe we're living a time of mass ascension, and we're all meant to walk that path, and to every single time that I have tried to direct my focus to walking this path alone, every single time the universe brings the next thing, the next group effort for me to make it this. We're not supposed to be walking this alone. And this song for me, she stands up first and says, I will rise up, because she's owning her own strength. But by the end of the song, she's saying, we will rise up. And it's not, I think that it's important that there's a shift there, because it's like we were talking about, you have to own your own shit. You have to love yourself. You have to find the ability to stand in your own strength if you're going to be good to anybody else. And so before even saying, hey guys, let's rise up, we first have to go, all right, self, let's rise up.
Beautiful.
And
I
so
love that.
That's why I love this song. Yeah, for sure.
You know, Jill and I talked about that after we listened to, because I asked her, what are you hearing? And what does this song mean to you? What are you hearing? And it was very similar to what you just shared. And maybe someday, I believe Jill is en route to the Grand Canyon right now, to spend a couple of days there connecting with herself and soul and spirit and all. But maybe I know she's going to watch the show on replay. And so without further ado, rise up.
All righty. Here you go, Jill. You're broken down and tired, living life on a merry-go-round. And you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountain. Yeah, we gonna walk it out and move mountain. I will rise up, rise like the day. I will rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I will rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. I will rise up, high like the waves. I will rise up, in spite of the ache. I will rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. The silence isn't quiet. It feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll bring this world to its feet. Move mountain. We'll bring the world to its feet and move mountain. I will rise up, I'll rise like the day. I will rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I will rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. I will rise up, high like the waves. I will rise up, in spite of the ache. I will rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. All we need is hope. And for that we have each other. And for that we have each other. Yeah, we will rise. Yeah, we will rise. We will rise, rise, rise. We will rise. We will rise up. We'll rise like the day. We will rise up. We'll rise unafraid. We will rise up. We'll do it as many times as it takes, again and again. Yes, we will rise up, high like the waves. We will rise up, in spite of the ache. Yes, we will rise up. We'll do it 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times again. Yes, we will rise. Better yet, we are rising. That's what I think, anyways. I think we're already doing it.
Yes. Yes. No doubt. You are rising up. Thank you for bringing some harmony and some love into the show today. Believe it or not,
that's what I love doing.
we almost at the hour. How did it feel to sing this song right now and play it?
Good, really good. Another thing I'm trying to work through right now is I quit smoking for 3 months, and then I picked it back up a few weeks ago, and I'm trying to get back off of it. And my throat is definitely feeling it. So I was a little nervous because I knew I was going to be stretching to hit some of those notes, but really when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter. the message is there. You can feel how I'm feeling when I sing that. It doesn't matter if I mess it up or not. Like, there's so much truth in that song. Like, all we need is hope. All we need is a little bit of faith to be able to move forward. And the more we're willing to step forward in those actions of loving ourselves and finding our truth and living that, the more we do that, like, the hope fades away and it turns into knowing and understanding and faith. And it's just, yeah, man. And
Beautiful.
it's
Go ahead.
being able to give each other hope is so easy. It's not a hard thing to do. It's not a hard thing to look somebody else in the eyes and say, it's gonna be okay. And them be able to feel that solidity. And yeah, man, we got this. Just got to keep doing it together.
Yeah. My understanding is, obviously, just by observing and watching, you are an artist. Obviously, you play the banjo. Share a little bit about what your art background is and where your passions lie today.
Well, I mean, I started my own personal brand, which I'm kind of setting aside to be more personally involved with QRT. But like the whole idea behind Jasper Fox art was based around a prayer that I wrote, and the prayer is, "We are together creating art and living in peace in everything we do by prioritizing our vibrational frequency." Aho. And to me, that embodies everything that I'm about. Like, from doing rainbow gatherings and doing the free food kitchen out in the woods, like, we build stoves and ovens and things out of logs and stones and dirt and there, we build these structures to hold the dishes. And like, from going to those gatherings, I realized that everything is art. Like, how you hang a tarp is art. How you dig a hole is art. How you communicate your feelings is art. How you cook is art. I mean, everything is art. And like, that's what another beautiful synchronicity right now. I'm actually editing a video for a lady named Elizabeth Foley, who's teaching a class about connecting with your authentic self through creativity. It's through our creative expressions that we figure out who we really are in a lot of circumstances. Now, I mean, of course, a lot of it comes other ways, but like, a lot of our self-discovery comes from, like, what music makes us feel what ways. Like, when I paint this color over this color, how does it make me feel? When I put these words in this order and sing them in this way, how does it make me feel? And it's just like that. I mean, art to me is everything. And whether you're a CEO, artistically organizing the way that your company runs, whether you're a mom, artistically, creating a flow in you and your children's life, everyone's an artist, I think. It's just people just don't realize that yet, or they're too scared to express themselves, or they haven't had the atmosphere where that kind of thing is supported.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. If you notice, I'm not sure if you see what's behind me, but my tagline is "Be the artist of your soul," and that has been such a guiding light for me in my own journey of coming home, reconnecting mind, body, and soul. It's all about the artist within. We all are, and what has taken us out is wounds and traumas and pain and hurt from our childhood. And when we're able to come back and reconnect with what we're feeling, you use music, you use a camera, you're an artist in many different ways, but ultimately, your love for art comes from within, and it's at the soul level, and it shows. You are just an absolutely beautiful man, Jasper, and I am honored and humbled to share the space with you that we just shared today.
Yeah, man.
I hope that you and I stay close to one another, and because you are a teacher and a mentor just by showing up And I know that there are things that you can teach me as I continue to navigate through my own healing journey, and vice versa. But I want to take a moment to thank you for coming into the studio today, to have the courage to step in. And I know for you, it's something that you're comfortable with. But even in a moment, I still want to acknowledge and honor you for stepping in today. Would you be willing to maybe just close this out? If your voice is up to it, maybe pick a song that is your favorite song right now, or something that means something to you, and close us out with it. Are you up to that? Or if you're not, that's okay too.
I'm trying to think of something that would be good. This is a song that comes from the woods. It comes from the Rainbow Family, and it also comes from every one of our hearts and everything that we're walking here. And it'll be just a little piece of it. You kind of need more people to sing the whole thing, but you know, yeah. Anyway, here we go. We are an old family. We are a new family. We are the same family, stronger than before. We honor you. We empower you to be who you are. We honor you. We empower you to be who you are. Yeah, man. I think that's what we're doing, is we're loving ourselves, and in the process and loving each other and empowering each other to be who we were here to be. So
beautiful. Yeah. Jasper Fox, thank you for joining me today on Real Men, Real Talk, Raw. Have a beautiful weekend, and we'll catch you next time. Jasper, thanks for joining me today. If you could stay in the studio just for a moment so we could have a personal moment together. For those of you that joined us live, thank you for showing up today to support Jasper and to support the work that I do by bringing people forward that have the courage to share their backstory of perhaps some pain, some wounds, some traumas, but most importantly, hope, because they're on a healing journey, as Jasper clearly is and has been on. So thank you for joining us today. We'll catch you next time on Real Men, Real Talk Raw.